Hello everyone, for Telesera, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. Thanks for joining us. To begin, the Argentinian presidential elections will be determined in a runoff we now know, scheduled for November 22nd. With over 97% of the votes counted, the Front for Victory candidate Daniel Scioli is in first place with nearly 37%, very closely followed by the right-wing candidate Mauricio Macri with 34%. Now, Scioli has promised to continue the popular policies of current President Cristina Fernandez of social programs, welfare, industrialization, and Latin American unity. Now, after the polling stations closed, Scioli called on the undecided to vote for him in the second round.
I call upon the undecided and independent voters to join this cause for a great future of Argentine development. I'm going to face this new period as I always did in my life, with more faith and hope than ever. I will continue searching for the meeting points to definitely reach victory for all Argentines.
Now, Macri's results were actually far better than initially predicted. Most exit polls had placed Scioli over 10% ahead of Macri, with around 40% support for Scioli. Macri has favored a return to neoliberal economic policies, cutting social programs and benefiting extractivist multinationals. And he has openly said he would negotiate with the country's holdout creditors, those creditors which are known as the vulture funds.
I invite you to conquer our future. It depends on each one of you. I ask you now today to take the years that it takes, and we won't stop until we achieve it, because every day from December 10 on, I promise you that we are going to be a little better, and we will bring us together. This is going to make us enthusiastic. This is going to make us passionate. This is the Argentina we all want, and it's today, and it's here, and now, and we are going to build it. Let's go, Argentina. Let's go together.
And the third place candidate, President Cristina Fernandez's former aide, Sergio Massa, thanked his 5 million voters and acknowledged his rival's victory.
I want to congratulate Daniel Scioli and Mauricio Macri for the election they made. In 3 weeks, we will certainly have to choose a way.
And presidential elections also took place in Guatemala. Comedian turned politician Jimmy Morales of the National Convergence Front swept the elections with close to 70% of the vote. Now, his election comes as the former president, of course, Otto Pérez Molina, and his former vice president, Roxana Valdetti, are in jail accused of corruption. Morales says he will represent all Guatemalans, including those who live outside of the country. However, the turnout in the election was down sharply compared with the first round.
From the presidency, I will be able to serve 50 million of Guatemalans inside the national territory and 2 million in the United States, who also supported us on this occasion.
And Morales' rival, Sandra Torres, she recognized the triumph of Morales.
I am and always will be a Democrat. We recognize Mr. Jimmy Morales' victory, and we wish him success for the sake of Guatemala. As always, we offer our constructive support for the sake of the country, since the current situation is a very complex one, which will need important agreements to move on. Guatemala has serious problems, but the people have made its choice, which we respect, and we wish Mr. Morales the best of success.
And we continue with our election coverage. Haiti also held national elections. People there went to the polling stations to elect a new president, among some other positions. Now, in contrast with the first round of parliamentary elections in August, Sunday's voting was mostly peaceful. But some voters did express frustration that they couldn't vote because their names did not appear on the register. The results should be released in about 10 days.
The orders have been maintained well today. According to my observation so far, there has been no violation happening.
10 women die in Bolivia every month at the hands of a husband or a partner. Now, this is despite the introduction of a law in 2013 that punished abusers with life sentences. 52% of Bolivian women have experienced physical or sexual violence at home, and campaigners say more money needs to be spent on protecting women and helping them escape abusive relationships. Our correspondent now, Dimitri Oldano, reports from La Paz.
15 years ago, Rosemary left her husband after suffering years of physical and psychological abuse. She fled the family home with her 7 children, with hardly any money and no support. All 8 lived together in just one room.
For me, it was a very difficult time. My children used to get up, and the youngest, who was only 3, used to say to me, "Mum, I want bread." I looked at my daughter and I felt so sad and started to cry.
Rosemary is just one of thousands of Bolivian women that experience violence in the home. Every month, 10 women die here in violent circumstances. Just this week, campaigners say a young Bolivian woman was killed by her husband.
He used a knife to attack her, and apparently there was no reason. He argued that the woman wasn't home at the time that she was supposed to be there.
In 2013, the Bolivian government passed Law 348, making femicide a crime punishable by up to 30 years in prison. Critics say it's been a failure, but the government insists the law is working.
In 2004, 200 women were killed in homicides in violent circumstances. There are now 57 deaths by femicide, a fall of more than 100%.
Women like Rosemary say enough isn't being done for the victims.
Our authorities are not yet putting the law into practice. It is not being implemented as it should be.
The vast majority of domestic violence complaints never reach trial in Bolivia. In 2014, just 6% of cases were processed by the courts. The government says this is a failure, and it's undertaking a judicial review of the system to ensure more convictions. Dimitri O'Donnell, Telesur, at the Department of Justice in La Paz.
And we turn back to Argentina now for more coverage on the elections. That's because we have our correspondent with us, Laureano Ponce, who will talk a little bit about those elections. Laureano, thanks for joining us. So Mauricio Macri, he really surprised a lot of people. The polls didn't show him coming so close to Daniel Scioli. In fact, some said he was at least 10 points behind him, but he ended up only being 2 points behind him. So do we have any idea why those polls might have been off as they were?
Hello to you, Cody, and to all the audience. Well, first of all, we need to say that there has been somehow a mistake in the polls. All polls showed, as you were just saying, that Mauricio Macri was at least 6 points behind Daniel Scioli. Right now, he's only 2.5 points behind, and that has been a really hard punch for both, for the Front for Victory, and it also came as a surprise for the Mauricio Macri's front, for the Cambiemos front, Let's Change, which is the coalition led by Macri, because right now nobody was expecting this result. The thing is that on November 22nd there is going to be a runoff election where they are going to compete, Daniel Scioli and Mauricio Macri, to know who is going to be the next president of Argentina. The main key issue seems to be in the Buenos Aires province, which is the largest province in Argentina. The province represents almost 40% of the total voters in the country, and in that province was where the Cambiemos coalition, led by Macri, had the best election. Actually, Maria Eugenia Vidal, who was running for provincial governor, won the election, so she's going to be the first not Peronist governor of Buenos Aires province for over 25 years.
And Laureano, do we have any idea those people who didn't vote for either Macri or Scioli, whose side will they turn to on November 22nd? Because those are obviously the people who will decide the end result here.
That is correct. Actually, the third runner was Sergio Massa. He comes from a Peronist origin, let's say. And some people inside his political force, inside the Renewal Front, already had said, even before the election, that in the case of a runoff, they would support Daniel Scioli because they always prefer a Peronist president rather than a more liberal, a more pro-business president or even neoliberal president as Mauricio Macri would be. So right now, it hasn't been defined yet. Sergio Massa, who was running third in the election, said that he was open to discuss the main issues for the country with anyone of Macri or Scioli. But the thing is that some very important members in his coalition had already said that they would support Scioli. And right now, also many important figures inside the Front for Victory, such as Argentina's defense minister, Agustin Rossi, said that they need to go after the progressive vote. Those progressive people that had not voted for the Front for Victory in the first round, they need to go after that vote in order to win the election in the runoff. That is very important because that shows that Scioli needs to, let's say, grow to the left in order to achieve a more satisfactory result in the runoff. So that is right now the situation. Daniel Scioli just gave a press conference a few minutes ago where he said that there is nothing finally decided yet. We still have a runoff to go, and they are expecting to win in the runoff, as the Peronist movement has always won in a.
Who didn't vote for either of the two front runners end up going to him in the final round, but we will certainly keep an eye on it. All right, Laureano Ponce, thank you very much.
Thanks to you, Cody. Goodbye.
Hurricane Patricia finally hit Mexico on Friday. Now, it caused material damage, but thankfully there are no reports of deaths or severe injuries there. Several collection points have been set in the country's capital to gather non-perishable food and drinking water for those who were affected in the states of Jalisco, Colima, and Nayarit. Another election to tell you about. Colombia also held elections this Sunday. Now, in this case, they were regional and local polls to elect governors of the 32 state departments, local councilors, members of the regional assemblies, and mayors. Now, after 12 years of rule by the left wing, Colombia's capital of Bogota will again be governed by the center-right. Former Mayor Enrique Peñalosa won with over 33% of the votes. Now, he was Bogota's mayor 15 years ago. In second place was Rafael Pardo with 28%, while Clara Lopez of the left-wing Democratic poll came in third with 18%.
Today, I want to send a message to so many citizens and so many young people who have a dream, who may have failed over and over. If you have a passion, you must persist and pursue your dreams. Work hard for that dream. No, zero presidency. I'm only interested in being mayor with all my heart, and only that.
Hay que persistir y que persistan en sus sueños. Trabajen duro por ese sueño.
And the left-wing candidate Clara Lopez, she recognized Peñalosa's victory, but she accused the media of running a dirty campaign against her.
The media's behavior and their monopoly on the polls had a serious and negative effect on the capital's democracy. So I demand integrity. There has never been such a filthy campaign against a woman in any part of the world.
We turn to Natalia Margarita now in Bogota with some more analysis on these elections. Natalia, there was some fears going up to these elections that there could be violence or corruption during the electoral process. How did it go, or were there any reports of that?
There is something really interesting, actually, Cody, and is that historically here in Colombia, it has been considered that the biggest risk of our electoral system is violence and the armed conflict-related violence, and also the insurgency. But what actually these latest regional and local elections has exposed is that violence was not that much of a threat as it actually was the corruption. So we can definitely say that as a result of the current peace process, we had yesterday the most peaceful local and regional elections. These elections took place amidst a historic reduction on violence. But on the other side, what has to do with corruption and particularly vote buying, there were heightening concerns and quite frightening numbers that shows the potential risk of fraud that was yesterday in the elections scenario. The Electoral Observation Mission, for instance, have said that five candidates for being governors that were highly questionable got actually elected. That on the one side. On the other side, they have received 1,200, 1,300 almost reports of vote buying. These are numbers that they are still, the Electoral Observation Mission is still corroborating, but they said that there were heightening, and they are heightening concerns regarding the corruption, and as I said before, specifically vote buying here in Colombia during yesterday elections.
And so let's talk a little bit about the results, Natalia. We know that President Santos's coalition, he won some of the most important governors and mayor's office. What other takeaways should we take away from the results? And can the coalition of Santos's, the victory of Santos's coalition be taken as some type of support to the peace process among the electorate there?
Well, these were local elections, Cody. So basically, more than for the peace process, people were voting for very local related issues. Now, in terms of the peace process, of course, the fact, as you mentioned, that the candidates of the coalition of President Santos won quite a significant number of mayors' positions as well as governors, it's gonna at the end mean that he will have a much easier time when it comes to the endorsement and implementation of these peace agreements once a final peace deal is reached in Havana, which is expected to happen before March next year. So indeed, this will make that process of implementation and endorsement much easier, as these members of the President Santos coalition managed to be elected in various major offices and governors' positions.
And very quickly, Natalia, Bogota once again is going to be ruled by the center right there after years in the hands of left-wing mayors. What should we take? What should we make of that? Are the voters there taking a turn to the right?
It's difficult to say, Cody, but what's true is the peace advocates here that were surrounding the campaign of leftist Clara Lopez, what they have said is that, well, Clara immediately was actually the first one in conceding defeat. And on the other side, they have said that they will continue to work for peace here, that Bogota is the mayor of Bogota, it's a very important position, as what is expected to happen in the near future is to be able to construct a model of capital in Colombia that is prepared for peace. So they have also said that they expect that the newly elected mayor of Bogota, Enrique Peñalosa, can abide by these plans for peace and to make of Bogota this capital of peace.
All right, Natalia Margarito there reporting from Bogota. Natalia, thanks.
Back to you.
A powerful earthquake has struck 4 countries in Asia, causing major damage and deaths. We'll have more on what is a developing tragic story coming up. The world is divided among continents and nations. Nations are divided by borders and interests. These interests divide the news. We examine the impact of these divisions on people and power. This is Imaginary Lines. Watch it on telesurtv.net/English. Telesur, wherever the news, you'll be there. A world infinitely connected. Millions of people instantaneously interacting. Experiences relayed in 144 characters. Millions of lives in every corner of the planet. They're not tweets, they're stories. Watch it on telesurtv.net/English. Telesur, wherever the news, you'll be there. Rod stars G1 and Claudia de la Cruz are Rebel Diaz, hip-hop activists positioned within a history of political resistance through music. And you don't stop. They invite young people to express themselves about their social struggles. And you don't stop. Watch it on telesurtv.net/English. Telesur, wherever the news, you'll be there. The death toll after a powerful 7.5 earthquake, magnitude earthquake that struck in northern Afghanistan this Monday keeps rising. The Pakistani military now says that more than 185 people have died there and at least 64 more were killed in Afghanistan. Now, the tremor was also felt in India and Tajikistan, leaving scores of injured across the region. Buildings were evacuated in the capital cities and communications disrupted in many areas. A stampede at a girls' school triggered by the quake left 12 students dead in the Afghan province of Takhar. Another 25 students were injured. Just days after visiting Moscow for talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad met with a Russian delegation on Sunday in Damascus. Now, according to state media, President Assad told the delegation that his country needs to eradicate terrorism in order to find a political solution to end the country's war. Now, earlier on Sunday, a Russian lawmaker said Assad had told the delegation that he is ready to hold elections if Syrians are not against it and that he would run again as president. Saudi Arabia and other countries insist on Assad's departure, while Moscow says that should be decided by Syrians, not external players. In the Yemeni capital of Sana'a, several hundred Yemeni civilians and activists protested against the United Nations. They were denouncing the international organization as complicit in the suffering of the civilian population that has endured 7 months now of airstrikes and a siege by Saudi-led coalition forces. UN-sponsored peace talks have failed repeatedly to bring an end to the airstrikes and ease the delivery and distribution of urgently needed aid, including medicines, food, and fuel. It seems that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is not slowing down for now. A Palestinian man has been shot and killed after allegedly stabbing an Israeli soldier in the occupied West Bank. Now, according to Israeli police, 22-year-old Raed Harada was fatally shot after he stabbed the soldier in the neck. The soldier remains hospitalized. In a separate incident on Sunday, a Palestinian woman at a border checkpoint was shot by Israeli police. They say she took out a knife and started to approach them after she was asked to identify herself. But a Palestinian witness disputed that and said that she was armed, saying she was just a terrified schoolgirl. Following Sunday's emergency meeting in Brussels, European Union and Balkan leaders have agreed to a 17-point plan to cooperate on managing the flow of refugees into Europe. Scores of refugees are currently making their way through Turkey, Greece, and the Western Balkans in a bid to reach places such as Germany and Scandinavia before winter. Now, among the measures that will be implemented are border registration, increased naval operations, and more places at reception centers along the route from Greece towards Germany. The first Indigenous World Games opened last Friday in Brazil's Amazon city of Palmas. Now, for 13 days, indigenous peoples from across the world will celebrate ancient skills such as spear throwing, tug of war, and archery. About 1,800 from 23 countries are scheduled to take part in the games that will last until November 2nd. Now, in the opening ceremony, Brazilian natives voiced their complaints against Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff for what they consider a land theft and the slow destruction of their cultures. Several Brazilian ethnic groups had refused to attend the games. That's what we're covering on this Monday afternoon here from Caracas, with plenty more on all of those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle. Have a great Monday.